A successful doctor receives a phone call. The caller knows his full name, his home address, even the last four digits of his bank account. The voice on the other end sounds calm, professional, and confident. There's been suspicious activity on your account. We need to verify your identity immediately. Everything sounds legitimate. Within minutes, the doctor follows every instruction. Hours later, thousands of dollars are gone. Here's the shocking part. He wasn't careless. He wasn't uneducated. And he certainly wasn't unintelligent. In fact, studies have shown that highly educated, successful people can be just as vulnerable to scams as anyone else. So why does this happen? How can intelligent people make decisions they later can't believe they made? The answer isn't low intelligence. It's psychology. Scammers rarely defeat your intelligence. They manipulate your emotions. They create urgency. They exploit trust. And they take advantage of the mental shortcuts your brain uses every single day. The frightening truth is this. If you're human, your brain has vulnerabilities. And the better you understand them, the harder they become to exploit. In today's video, we'll uncover the hidden psychology behind why smart people still get scammed, and how understanding your own mind may be the best defense you have. Let's begin. For many years, people have believed one simple idea. Only gullible people get scammed. It sounds logical. After all, if you're intelligent, educated, and careful, you should be able to spot a scam, right? Surprisingly, psychology tells a very different story. Scammers don't succeed because they're smarter than their victims. They succeed because they understand how the human mind works under pressure. Think about it. A pilot can still make a mistake when they're exhausted. A doctor can overlook an obvious detail during a stressful emergency. A chess grandmaster can miss a simple move when the clock is running out. Intelligence doesn't make the brain immune to pressure. In fact, highly intelligent people can sometimes become even more vulnerable. Why? Because confidence can create a dangerous illusion. Many smart people believe they're too clever to be deceived. That confidence may cause them to lower their guard at exactly the wrong moment. Scammers know this. They rarely begin with something obviously suspicious. Instead, they build trust. They sound professional. They use familiar company names. They create believable stories. And before you realize what's happening, your brain has already started cooperating. This isn't because you're foolish. It's because your brain is trying to solve a problem as quickly as possible. The human mind is incredibly powerful, but it's also designed to save time and energy. Instead of analyzing every situation from scratch, it relies on mental shortcuts. Most of the time, these shortcuts help us make fast, effective decisions. But in the hands of a skilled scammer, those same shortcuts can become powerful weaknesses, and that's where the real danger begins. If intelligence isn't your best protection, then what exactly are scammers targeting? The answer lies inside your brain, and it starts with something psychologists call mental shortcuts. Imagine if your brain analyzed every decision from the ground up. Every email, every phone call, every face you meet, every choice at the grocery store. It would be exhausting. That's why your brain relies on something psychologists call mental shortcuts or heuristics. These shortcuts help you make quick decisions without thinking through every detail. Most of the time, they work remarkably well. They help you recognize danger, trust familiar faces, and make hundreds of small decisions every day without becoming mentally overwhelmed. But here's the problem. Scammers understand these shortcuts just as well as psychologists do, and they know exactly how to exploit them. One of the most powerful shortcuts is authority. When someone sounds like a police officer, a bank employee, or a government official, your brain naturally lowers its skepticism. Not because you're naive, but because, throughout life, we've learned that authority figures are usually trustworthy. Another shortcut is urgency. Imagine receiving a message that says, "Your account will be locked in the next 10 minutes unless you act now." Suddenly, your brain shifts into survival mode. Instead of asking, "Is this message real?" it starts asking, "How do I stop this from happening?" Fear pushes critical thinking into the background. Then comes scarcity. Only one spot left. Limited time offer. Last chance. When something feels rare or about to disappear, our brains assign it more value. We become afraid of missing out. Psychologists call this loss aversion. Research has shown that people often fear losing something more than they value gaining something of equal worth. Scammers don't invent these reactions. They simply trigger psychological systems that already exist inside every human brain. That's why deception isn't just about fake websites or convincing voices. It's about understanding how people think, especially when they're emotional, distracted, or under pressure. And once you realize that, you stop asking, who would fall for this? Instead, you begin asking, could this work on me if I caught me at the wrong moment? That's a much more powerful question. But there's one psychological weapon that may be even more powerful than authority or urgency. It has convinced millions of people to trust complete strangers. It's called social proof, and you experience it every single day. Imagine you're walking through a busy city. You see two restaurants. The first one is completely empty. The second has a long line of people waiting outside. Without knowing anything else, which one would you choose? For most people, the answer is obvious. The busy restaurant. Not because they've tasted the food, but because other people seem to trust it. Psychologists call this social proof. When we're uncertain, we naturally look to other people for clues about what is safe, correct, or trustworthy. It's one of the brain's oldest survival strategies. For thousands of years, following the group often increased the chances of staying alive. If everyone in your tribe ran in one direction, you probably ran too. There wasn't always time to ask why. That instinct still exists today. Only now, it's used in very different situations. Thousands of 5-star reviews. A website with thousands of followers. Comments saying, "It worked for me. This company is amazing. I just received my payment." Your brain begins to relax. If so many people trust it, it must be safe. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Social proof can be manufactured. Fake reviews, fake comments, fake followers, even fake news articles. A skilled scammer doesn't always try to convince you directly. Sometimes, they simply create the illusion that everyone else already believes them. And once your brain accepts that illusion, questioning it becomes much harder. This doesn't mean you should distrust everyone. It means you should remember one important fact. Popularity is not proof. A large crowd can be wrong. Thousands of people can believe something that isn't true. And sometimes, the safest decision is the one you make after thinking for yourself. So far, we've seen how scammers use authority, urgency, and social proof. But there's one final trick that makes all of these tactics even more powerful. It doesn't target your intelligence. It targets your emotions. And when emotions take control, logic often takes a step back. Imagine receiving a message that says, "Your bank account has been compromised," or "A family member has been in an accident," or even, "Congratulations, you've just won a huge prize." In moments like these, something remarkable happens inside your brain. Before logic has time to fully analyze the situation, emotion takes over. Fear, excitement, hope, panic. These emotions evolve to help us react quickly to danger or opportunity. In many situations, that's incredibly useful. If you see a car speeding toward you, you don't stop to calculate every possibility. You move fast. But scammers exploit this same survival system. They know that emotional people make faster decisions, and faster decisions often mean fewer questions. That's why many scams are designed to create an emotional roller coaster. First, they trigger fear. Then they offer relief, or they create excitement, followed by urgency. Your brain becomes focused on solving the immediate emotional problem instead of evaluating the facts. Psychologists sometimes describe this as a shift from slow, analytical thinking to fast, intuitive thinking. Under emotional pressure, your brain naturally chooses speed over accuracy. And that's exactly what scammers are counting on. The more emotional you become, the less likely you are to notice small warning signs. A strange email address, a suspicious link, an unusual request. Details that would normally stand out suddenly become invisible. That's why one of the simplest ways to protect yourself isn't learning hundreds of scam techniques. It's learning to recognize your own emotional state. If a message makes you feel intense fear, extreme excitement, or pressure to act immediately, that's the moment to pause. Because the strongest defense against manipulation isn't a higher IQ. It's creating enough time for your logical mind to catch up with your emotions. But there's one final lesson that every expert on deception agrees on. The people who avoid scams aren't the ones who know every trick. They're the ones who know when to stop and think. Let's look at why that simple habit can change everything. Imagine two people receiving the exact same scam message. Both are intelligent. Both have successful careers. Both have seen news stories about online scams. Yet one of them loses money, and the other simply deletes the message. What made the difference? It wasn't intelligence. It wasn't education. It was one small habit. They paused. That brief moment changes everything. Instead of reacting emotionally, they became curious. Instead of asking, "How do I fix this right now?" they asked, "Is this even real?" That single question activates a different part of your thinking. It slows the emotional response and gives your logical mind time to evaluate the situation. Psychologists have found that many poor decisions happen when people feel rushed. The faster you're pushed to decide, the less likely you are to notice warning signs. That's why experienced investigators often follow a simple rule. Urgency is a reason to slow down, not speed up. If someone pressures you to act immediately, verify the information. Call the company using its official phone number. Ask someone you trust for a second opinion. Take 5 minutes. Those few minutes can save you from months of stress and regret. Scammers fear one thing more than anything else: time. Because the longer you think, the weaker their psychological advantage becomes. Your greatest protection isn't having a perfect memory. It isn't having the highest IQ. It's having the discipline to stop, breathe, and think before you act. The biggest surprise about scams is this: they aren't really attacks on your intelligence. They're attacks on your psychology. Every human brain uses mental shortcuts. Every human experiences fear, excitement, and urgency. And every human can make mistakes under the right circumstances. Understanding these psychological patterns doesn't make you paranoid. It makes you aware. The next time someone pressures you to act immediately, promises something that sounds too good to be true, or tries to make you panic, remember this simple rule: pause first, think second, act last. That one habit could protect not only your money, but also your time, your confidence, and your peace of mind. If you enjoyed this video and want to discover the hidden psychology behind everyday human behavior, make sure to subscribe to Daily Psychology. Thanks for watching. Because the more you understand your mind, the harder it becomes for anyone else to control it.